Hi, everyone. I'm Mikey Stiller, the Director of Marketing for the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and I am so happy to be here with you today. And I'm happy that you've chosen to spend a little bit of your afternoon with us. We have an amazing panel lined up and a great call for you. So on the line, I have Araj Vasugi, Peggy McCall, and Becca Hansen, all of which are incredible students who have the great fortune and opportunity to work very closely with Bob Proctor and the Proctor Gallagher Institute. So what I wanted to do today was just ask them several questions about their experience and things that they've learned, things that can definitely help you, and how they've had paradigm shifts that have changed their life forever. So Araj, I really wanted to start with you. How are you doing?
I'm great, Mikey. How are you?
Doing great. You were at our first paradigm shift event in October. Can you tell me just a little bit about why it was so different than any of our other events?
Sure. I could tell you what I told Bob. I have been working close with him now for the past, mentored by him 8 years ago, been working side by side for the past 6 years. And I told him it was by far the best 3-day event we've ever done. And I have been studying paradigms closely for several years. And I was having paradigm shifts while I was there. And I thought Bob did such a great job because it wasn't just one of these events where you go to a seminar and you feel really good, but he gave tactical activities and action steps for everyone to do. And I talk to clients still who are still doing those action steps that Bob gave. I think by far it was the most impactful 3-day event that I had ever been to.
Thanks, Araj. And just to give everybody a little bit of backstory, do you mind backing up just a little bit and telling us how you came to know Bob and how you came to work so closely with him?
Sure. So about 8 years ago, I was really at my worst, to be fair. I had been studying this material for about 3 years. I was reading books, going to seminars, getting on YouTube, but nothing that I did seemed to work. And then Bob and I had a mutual acquaintance who connected us, and Bob had a call with me that changed my life. And he said, I'll never forget this, and I know some people have heard this before who's probably on this call, but I really have to mention it, is he said, if you'll do exactly what I tell you, not half, not 3/4, everything will change. And I remember saying to him, I said, will this work? Because I've tried other things. And he said, until you find out that I'm a liar or I don't know what I'm talking about, then you can come back to me. And that had such an emotional impact on me because I read all these books on success that said, find a mentor and do what they tell you because success leaves clues. So I didn't know if it would work, but I didn't know it wouldn't work, and I knew my way wasn't working. So from that point on, I can tell you, for the past 8 years, I've never doubted the man, and I've done exactly what he's told me. And that's why I keep wanting to surround myself with him, because every year I've gotten to another paradigm shift and another level of jumping levels of awareness that has helped me to get to where I am. And in turn, I've been able to transfer this to help other people as well.
Thanks, Araj. You know, I have known you for over 8 years now. And did you ever think 8 years ago that fast forward 8 years, you would be coaching and mentoring so many of Bob's clients and the people that work closely with us and really teaching them the paradigm shift and the information that you're learning from Bob? And how has that affected you?
I mean, I would have never believed 8 years in the future from back then that I'd be where I am. And it happened so quickly. And that was the thing. I was just wanting to get back on my feet, and I really wanted to create freedom for me and my family. But to be working side by side with Bob and to work with the Proctor Gallagher Institute, I would have never even known how that could come about. So I was really just focused on doing what he told me, and it's changed my life. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to mentor others and really pass on what I've learned. And I always try to pass on. I do my best to pass on something Bob teaches me right away to the next person I'm talking to, because that's how I can make another paradigm shift, because it gets more ingrained inside of me. So when we first met, I would be lying to tell you if I if I believed that I would be where I am, because there's no way. It's just been such an amazing ride, and I really believe working with Bob and getting mentored by him, and I think anybody on this line can attest that I really feel like all of us are just getting started, because that's how Bob really gets you to push yourself and stretch yourself. So I think everybody who is listening, I think all of you have a great opportunity to learn from not just us, but continue to learn from Bob and really be a part of the paradigm shift and make your own.
Thanks, Haraj. Haraj, I'm going to come back to you, but I want to move on to Peggy really quick. And Peggy, if you can start by telling us how you met Bob and what's happened since.
Oh my goodness, how much time do we have?
All the time you need.
All the time we need. Okay. Well, when I was 19 years of age, which was several years ago, like almost 39 to be exact, I worked for a company in Toronto, Ontario. It's where I was born and raised. And this company hired Bob Proctor to come in and do this kickoff event. And it was in January. And as an employee of the company, we were mandated that we had to attend. And I was a pretty negative person. I mean, I was grumpy, I was insecure and angry. I really thought that my lot in life had been served to me from, my parents, and it was their fault. It was my employer's fault. It was my boyfriend's fault. And so I wasn't really a pleasant person to be around. And so when I was told that we had to go to this seminar, I didn't want to go. And I was looking for the exit, how do I get out of here? And so we're told, like, get to the seminar and get in the room and get yourself settled and be there early. We're going, everything's going live at a certain time. So I get to the room and it's full. It is full of people. And there's no seats anywhere except right in the front row. And I did not want to be in the front row. So I find myself sitting in the front row. And Bob came on stage. And as you know very well, Mikey, he commands attention. I mean, it's like he's waking you up, right? Just with his voice. And not only his voice, it's the message and the conviction that he has for what he's saying. And because he knows it works firsthand from his own experience and from what he studied and from Napoleon Hill and all the people that he studied. And so he said a number of things that evening that really woke me up to a completely new understanding, information I'd never heard before, never been exposed before. And one of the things that really shifted for me, and I call this an epiphany moment that I had with Bob, and I've had many of them since, he quoted Vernon Howard. And he said, Vernon Howard said, "You cannot escape from a prison unless you know you are in one." And I had created this prison of my own making. And it did feel dark and lonely and scary. And I was angry that I was in there, not even realizing that the door was never locked. I wasn't even in a prison. I had created it all myself. And that if I wanted my life to change, I had to change. And what I loved about Bob Proctor's teaching way back 38 years ago and today is that he really gives you that understanding. I mean, he explains it through concepts that will help you understand it. Because how can you apply anything unless you have the understanding? And he talks about that too. No amount of going to seminars or listening to audios or reading the books is going to do anything for you. It's not until you seek to understand and then you apply that your life will change. Well, I'll tell you, that day changed my life forever. And if Bob recommended that I read a book, I would read a book. And I didn't just read it, I devoured it. And I became an addict. Not an addict on drugs or alcohol or anything else that's not good for you. I was an addict for his material. And right away, he offered a program. It was an 8-week program. And I signed up. I think it was called the Results Seminar. And I signed up. And then when I finished that program, I signed up again to go through it again. I mean, my family thought I had lost my mind. But the reason why I kept going back, way back when, is because my results continued to improve. And that's why I still go back. I bought a table at the next paradigm shift, and I'm there front row. Now I'm front row. I'm like, breaking through the people to get into the front row. And most people know me. I'm trying to sneak in the back way so I can get in early to have my front row seat, because it really changes your results. And where it started, like where it really, really started for me, Mikey, is I was such an insecure person. I mean, I remember walking downtown Toronto on Yonge Street. And you know how sometimes you're walking past the store and you see your reflection in the window? And I'd see my reflection in the window and I'd literally go, ew, like, I didn't even like myself, right? That's where I was at. I didn't want to look in mirrors. You know, I was really not a happy person. And what Bob helped me to understand is how I can change my life. And I decided to dedicate my life to it. I will study until the day I die. I'm always in the study. And if Bob's doing a seminar, I am there. I'm signing up. And you know, when I think about it, how much money I've invested, and I'll use that word very, very carefully. It's an investment. The best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. The money that I've invested in myself by studying Bob and his materials, I have no idea what it is. Probably 6 figures, you know, maybe with the travel and the years that I've been at it, could be near 7. But what does it really matter when what it brings to you are results that you can't even measure? When I think about my life now, I'm happily married to a wonderful man. And many of you have met my husband, Denny. I have a happy marriage. And that just brings so much joy to my life. I have a wonderful son who I have a very close relationship with. I have a grandson who I invest quality time with. We live in a beautiful home. You know, we drive gorgeous cars. We've got a beautiful waterfront property as well, another home on the water. I mean, I live an incredible life. And I'm doing business like I've never done. My results continue to grow. So how has my life changed? In every way. Every way.
Thanks, Peggy. I love your story so much, and I have to laugh when you talk about how you are front row, because all of us on staff always know that Peggy is front row. So her table's got to be at the front. And you made a great point, because every time that we have a seminar, you are one of the very first people to buy a table. You already have your table reserved for our next paradigm shift, even though you were at paradigm shift in October. And I have to ask, what is it that keeps you coming back, and why are you coming again to paradigm shift when you were at paradigm shift before?
You know, as you asked the question, I have complete whole body experience of goosebumps, because every time I go, my life changes. You know, it's like Arash was mentioning, you know, he had paradigm shifts that were occurring last time he was at it. And I agree with Arash. The paradigm shift event is the best event. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. I was blown away with the content and really helping people understand those paradigms. So when I was there, I was having a number of things that were occurring. You see, paradigms, as Bob teaches, and he'll teach at the paradigm shift, are so strong. I mean, even old thoughts, old paradigms from before, they want to grab a hold of you and bring you back or pull you back, and you got to get a hold of them. And I remember Bob saying things on stage, and of course I'm sitting there and I'm taking notes like crazy. And I remember him saying, you know, talking about paradigms and how challenging they can be. And that's why it's so important to understand this, and it's so important to implement what he suggests. I remember him saying, you know, how challenging it can be to change them. And I remember having the thought in the moment, I don't remember him ever saying that before. And here's the thing, he probably has said it before, but we may not have heard him say it before. And so I find that every time I go, I'm in a different place. I'm all about consistent growth and fuller expansion and greater expression of who I am. I'm all about being on that side of getting better, because as Bob says, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. So which side of that do you want to be on? So every time I go, I'm having these moments, you know, these epiphany moments. And what I do when I take my notes, like you get this wonderful workbook at the paradigm shift, and I write notes all in there. And of course, the what's provided for us, the notes that are provided are phenomenal. And then what I do in the back of the binder is I actually go right to the back and I create my action items. What am I going to do with this when I get home? So I'm already applying it, because Bob will talk about that, like how valuable it is to be applying these materials when you get back at home. And what I love about what Bob teaches, and I have studied all of the speakers in the world. I mean, I've been at this for 38 years, so Bob's not the only one that I've studied. He truly is the best. Nobody comes close to him. And I hear it all the time from participants that go, and from my clients that I bring, or other people that I meet at the events. There's nobody better than Bob Proctor. He has the greatest level of understanding of anyone. He's been at this for over 55 years, and it's not a casual thing. It's an active, aggressive, every single day study. So not only am I a different person when I go, and I'm getting more when I go, he's a different person when he shows up in the room as well. And that's so incredibly valuable.
I love that. Thanks, Peggy. And you actually just made me think of something that I want to ask Raj, because I know he'll answer it so well. And that is, you say Bob is the best. Out of all of the speakers you heard, he's the best. And I could not agree more. And I think one of the reasons is there's so many people in the personal development space that are very motivational and rah, and it gets you feeling good, but then nothing happens. And I think one of the things that we pride ourselves on at the Proctor Gallagher Institute and that Bob does so well is he actually gets to the root of the cause and makes a change and helps you make a change. And so, Raj, maybe you could talk about that and what it is that's so different about what Bob teaches.
Yeah, sure, Mike. You know, I agree with Peggy, and I think all of us would. I've been around a lot of speakers. I've spent a lot of money in myself and invested quite a bit to really improving my life. But Bob simplifies everything. So he gets you to get it on a understanding at the core level, right where your heart is. And he will emphasize what needs to be emphasized. But he doesn't go to the result. He gets you to understand that the result is the effect, that he gets you to go to the cause. And I have not seen anybody else do it in the manner which he does it, to transfer what he knows into you is so effortless. Like everything with what he teaches you, especially I go back to the paradigm shift. Like Peggy was talking about the content's second to none. And especially for me to say that for all the content that I've learned from Bob over the years, he continues to add more to it to transfer what he knows to you as the person sitting in that room, so you create an immediate impact and get you into action. So the biggest thing that there's so many lessons that I can go back to just since October that has transformed my life personally, but it's always going back to the root and always digging deeper to find there's always a better way, and he gets you to that better answer to go deep within yourself. And I keep using the words effortless, but that's how it is. He makes it effortless. Peggy was with me a couple weeks ago. We were at an event with Bob, and he was talking about paradigms, and he was talking about the paradigm shift, but he said, changing the paradigm is essential to success. It's not, okay, if you change the paradigm. If you want success, it is essential to shift that paradigm, or else the success is not going to happen. So my biggest goal when I'm working with, just even on this call with the people who are listening, every one of you can have what you want. However, you have to shift that paradigm, and you have to know how to shift the paradigm, which most people think they do, because they'll say, oh, I watched it on YouTube. And I'll say, well, tell me how your results are, because our results will always tell us what's going on inside. And that's how I know the paradigm hasn't been shifted. It's just in their intellect. We've got to transfer it, and this is what Bob does so brilliantly, and I think Peggy and Becca and Mikey, you guys can all attest, that he teaches you how to get it out of your intellect and transfer it into your emotional mind, your subconscious. So I think anybody would be blessed to have the opportunity to work that closely with them to learn this. I think it's invaluable and it's essential.
Thanks, Raj. Now, I want to bring Becca Hansen into the conversation. She's our president and COO here at the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and she has had an incredible transformation. Even since I've met her, Becca, I feel like your transformation has almost been physical. You really come out of your shell, and you tell it so beautifully how your self-image has just completely changed with this information. So I was hoping you could share that with everyone.
Yeah, so I remember the first Bob Proctor seminar that I ever went to. It was a Science of Getting Rich seminar, and I was introduced to it. My then boyfriend at the time, now husband, him and his mother were working with Bob for quite some time, and I was blessed to have had them, cross my path and introduce me into this incredible information. And I knew a little bit about him. They had suggested that I read James Allen's As a Man Thinketh, that Bob often recommends, and U Squared by Price Pritchett. And so those were my first two introductions to this material. And then I went and saw Bob at a Science Getting Rich seminar. And I was at the back of the room with other people that worked there. Like I had an in with everybody that was working the seminar, and I was sitting at a table with them. But that scared me even more, because then there was more of a chance that Bob was going to come and talk to me. Because I was sitting around people that he knew. And I remember when he came up and he put his hands on my shoulder, and I was literally shaking, because I was so shy. I can't even begin to explain how incredibly shy I was, and how hidden I had buried all of my talents and abilities, because I really had such a poor self-image of myself. And getting involved in this material and you know, like you said, Peggy, doing everything that Bob tells you. If Bob tells you to read a book, you read it, you devour it. You know, I just got in the habit of listening to everything that Bob said and taking every suggestion that he could possibly give me. And, you know, I went from being extremely shy to where, you know, I didn't want to go do anything by myself. I really decided to make the effort to be uncomfortable all the time, doing things that made me uncomfortable to help grow my self-image. And all of it was suggestions that came from Bob. And specific to paradigm shift, I mean, that's what that event is all about, is teaching you what a paradigm is, and taking the time to really look at yourself and identify those negative paradigms that are no longer serving you, and developing ways to change them. And so when I first got involved in this material, and it finally clicked that if I could control my thoughts, I could control my actions, and then I could control my results. And that was just this incredibly empowering idea that no one had ever taught me before. It had never been suggested to me. I knew that I was capable of doing something more, but I had no idea how to change whatever it was inside myself that was you know, holding me back from achieving everything that I was capable of. And it was through the understanding of paradigms and everything that Bob teaches at the paradigm shift that you know, helped me get there over the course of 8 years. It's constant repetition of those right ideas, and every day really looking at yourself honestly and identifying those paradigms that no longer serve you. And so I worked for 8 years on that self-image, and that little girl's still back there somewhere. Occasionally she peeks out her shy little head, but I've developed a new self-image that overpowers her in 90% of the time. So
I love it. Oh, there's my dogs. Sorry, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Maybe you guys have dogs at home too. So we'll stop in just a second. So I want to ask you all a question, because you've all been studying Bob for quite some time, you know, 8 to 10 years, 8 years, 30, almost 39 years. And what I want to ask you is, for someone who is watching this webinar who might be brand new to Bob, and we've all said we've had these transformations over the past X amount of years, can they expect to really see change after just a weekend event? And I want to get your honest feedback, each of you, on that question. And Araj, I'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah, you can absolutely get an immediate impact after the event, because once again, going back to my last several answers, it always comes back to the paradigm. And Bob literally takes you by the hand and shows you what to do and how to do it to get you to your results. So if you're the newest person, or if you just picked up a book from Bob or saw him on YouTube, you will see your life absolutely transform. You know, I had a client, Mikey, if you don't mind me sharing a story, I had a client who came to our last paradigm shift in October, and it was about a week before the event, and he was in Australia. And he was really at his wit's end. His business was going the wrong direction, and he's one of the people who had heard about Bob, but never really dove in deeply with him. And I told him, I said, you need to come to this event. I said, I guarantee you it will absolutely change your life. And he says, oh, I've done events, they don't work. You just go, you feel good, and then a week later, you're back to the old thing. I said, well, how is your way working right now? And he said, well, not well. And I said, you have to trust me. And I said, I'm going to be there. So if you have a bad time, or if you think what I'm telling you isn't true, you're going to come and be mad at me because you're going to call me a liar. And I said, what do you have to lose? I said, you're not risking anything. Well, he said, well, you know, for me to pay a flight from Australia and then pay for the event. And I said, well, you're risking more by not coming than by coming. What if what I'm telling you is true? Well, this gentleman and I have now become very close friends throughout this process, because in the last 6 months, since October, his business has improved by a little over 40%. And now he ended up, and now he'll do whatever I recommend for him, because it's had such an impact, and he's joined our Inner Circle program. And it's just, you know, this is one of many stories. I think all of us know that we have our own stories, but there's other stories of clients out there. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm kind of long-winded with this, but it's so important to me because I remember when I was stuck. I mean, it really sucked when I was stuck. I didn't enjoy my life at all, but there's another answer. So to anybody that I'm connecting with over this, or Peggy is, or Becca, or you, Mike, I want you to know that the paradigm shift is one of the single most important decisions you could make for yourself. You guys might be sitting back and you might be saying to yourself, oh, I'm similar to that gentleman I was mentioning, okay? I'm telling you, the difference between really taking a quantum leap for yourself is really to invest in yourself and to act on the idea right away. We were at an event a couple weeks ago, and Bob said the biggest problem with people is their ideas stay stillborn. See, most people, if you look at it, they want to do this, but they say, oh, I can't, or I'll do it later, or when this happens, that happens. When you get an image in your mind, you get that inspiration, act on it right away, because it will put you into a whole different stratosphere of what your life can become if you will just get out of your comfort zone and really trust somebody who really knows what they're talking about. And I'm referencing Bob here.
Thanks, Raj. Great answer. Peggy, what about you? Do you think that you can really make change in just a 3-day weekend?
I think you can make a change in the first half hour. I mean, that's definitely my experience. I mean, as soon as Bob gets on stage and he starts to share, I mean, my pen's down to paper, I'm listening intently, I'm on the edge of my seat, and I'm already having shifts. And I find that happens every single time I'm in his presence, whether it's for 5 minutes or whether it's for 5 hours or whether it's for an entire weekend. The fact that you can be with him for an entire weekend is phenomenal. I mean, it absolutely is life-changing. And being there in person is a very different experience than watching the stream, or as Arash was talking about, reading a book or watching a YouTube video. It's a completely different experience. I know that from experience, but I also know it from meeting up with people that are in the room at the events, and they talked about that they watched the streaming the last time and it was great, but now that they're here and like fully embracing it, it's like a different energy in the room. And of course the events sell out. And for anyone, if you don't have your ticket yet, get it, because it will sell out. That event's selling out. It's the best one that there is. But I'm thinking about, there's a quote that Bob quotes, and Bob is phenomenal. I mean, he really works his memory, right? His mental faculty of memory. And he talks about, James Allen says, you know, people are, you know, they really have a desire, I'm going to paraphrase, but they have a desire to change their results. And Arash was talking about results, right? That's an indicator of what's going on inside. They really want to change the results, but they do nothing. And so they therefore remain bound, right? And doing something is going to get the understanding. It's getting, like, how can you do anything with it if you don't understand? Like, I was thinking about the last paradigm shift and Bob talking about focus, right? And really focus, you know, building those new paradigms, the paradigms that support you and what you desire to achieve. And I remember I have my goal card right here in my hand. And I remember writing the goal and not really believing that I was going to achieve this. And of course, there's a disconnect in that, right? And what was happening is my old paradigms were revealing themselves, right? And he talked about focusing on it and really get emotionally attached to it, create a clear mental picture, right? Like really see it. So it's not enough to just read your goal card or think about what it is you want. I mean, I have a book on my desk here that I created. I had this designed, I call it my dream book. And on the front, it says my extraordinary life that I'm grateful for. And I have pictures of my family in here. And I have pictures of actually me on stage with Bob. There's a picture of me and you know, flying with Bob in his private jet. And so it's not enough to create these things or to have the goal card or read the books or use these tools or put these reminders in front of you. It's really about internalizing it. And what I love is that you get a picture, right? You see the picture of the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and then the body. And then he explains how all of that works, how we take in information, what we accept, what we reject, how the paradigms are worked. You know, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And what I love about that is that, I can't remember your question now, Mikey, but well, what I get so excited about it, right? It's just so life-changing. And what I love about it is that, I know what you asked me, but you know, in the first 5 minutes, I think, can change your life by being in the room. But if you get in that room and you're there for 5 minutes, you absolutely want to stay for the whole weekend, and you'll be there for the whole weekend, having life shifts go on the entire weekend long.
I love that. Thanks, Peggy. And when you say your life can change within the first 30 minutes, that's exactly what happened for Sandy Gallagher. And she was already doing well. She was doing great as an attorney, and completely changed the direction of her life. And now she's our wonderful co-founder and CEO. So that's a really great point. Becca, what's your perspective?
Well, I mean, I completely agree. As Bob says, there's two ways to change a paradigm. One is through an emotional impact, and another is through repetition. And I think that you can accomplish both at one of our events. That first Science of Getting Rich seminar, that was a huge emotional impact for me. I was hearing all kinds of ideas and concepts that I had never heard before that really got me thinking. And that's what jump-started everything for me, is to get introduced to it. So if you're new to this material, if maybe getting there is your action step. Maybe that's the action that you need to take to get it to really start moving things for you. And as Peggy said, to really develop that understanding, because it's the understanding of this material that's going to do it for you. And being locked in a room for 2.5 days, there's no better way to do it. You're in a room with, like-minded people who are all there for the same reason. And if you're somebody who's anything like I used to be, so shy and intimidated to go to an event like that, that's why you should do it. Is if it makes you uncomfortable, you absolutely should. So yeah, absolutely. You're going to walk away from 3 days with Bob, a completely different person with a totally different perspective and outlook on what's possible. So.
Thanks, Becca. Peggy, you touched very briefly on the networking that goes on at the events, and I talked earlier about how you are one of the first people to buy a table at every single one of our events. So what I want you to talk about really quickly is just, why do you always buy a table and not just a ticket? And what's your experience about networking with the amazing people who are at our events?
Well, that's a great question. Well, I really think part of the growth experience, and Arash touched on this as well, is the sharing. Right? Sharing these ideas with others. And there's a couple of things that occur when you share with others. One is that it reinforces it for you, right? So, and that's not why you do it, but it does. It comes back to you. The more you share, the more you include others, the better it's going to go for you. And then the other reason is that, I love inviting my clients or my friends. I've met people at the events. Phil Goldfine, right? Phil Goldfine, who is an Academy Award winning, Oscar winning director or producer from Hollywood. I met him at Bob's events. And he was at an event where he had set a goal to win an Oscar, an Academy Award. And I remember the event as if it was yesterday. And Bob had said, okay, Phil, I want you to stand on your chair. He hadn't won it yet, but it was a goal. It was a goal that he had declared. And Bob said, I want you to stand on your chair right now in front of these hundreds of people that are in this room and give your acceptance speech. And someone handed him a microphone, and they handed him something to pretend it was like the Academy Award, and he was holding it in his hand. And this totally caught him off guard. And Phil's kind of a shy guy. And so he did that. It was such an impactful event for him, impactful experience for him. And then a few weeks later, he won the Academy Award. So he didn't know at that event, but he had set the objective. And so you meet people like that. And Phil is just a down-to-earth guy. You'll meet people who are already wildly successful. I met Keith. Keith did it, and Wendy did it at one of Bob's events. And Keith's running a business, and he tells the story. Sometimes Bob will bring him on stage or hand him a mic, and he'll tell the story of how he set an objective to buy this yacht. And it wasn't any yacht, it was $1 million yacht. And he set that objective. And every time, and Keith Ditta will tell anyone this, every time he goes to a Bob Proctor seminar, he comes out of it a greater, grander person with a greater, grander vision. And he accomplishes and does more with his life. And he's just a down-to-earth guy. So you meet all kinds of like-minded people. They're amazing people. I've established friendships that I know are going to last a lifetime. So you're surrounded with people that are in this energy and this consciousness of positivity. And it's just a wonderful place to be, because out there in the world, it's not really like that very much. So it's a very invigorating, exciting growth experience just from being in the room as well.
Thanks for sharing, Peggy. And you know, one of the questions that we always get, and Araj, I'm going to give this one to you because you come to every single one of our events, near and far, is will this be different from events in the past? Have I been to an event in the past, and is it worth the investment? Is it worth the money?
Well, obviously I travel to all of them no matter what, but I can tell you I have clients, and our clients who get the best results never miss an event. And I have one client from Calgary, he keeps coming back to every event, and he says, I keep coming back because my business keeps multiplying. And it's not just his business that multiplies, he multiplies. His business wouldn't multiply without him coming to these events, and he is so smart to be doing that. And every event is different. You know, for somebody who keeps coming to him, I was just telling this story to a client today, you know, every event I go to, like I've been to our Matrix event probably about 15 times, and every single Matrix is different for me because I'm different every time I go in. So I'm picking up things that I never heard before, like Peggy was talking about earlier. Like, I think anybody who really wants to make their life better in any way, whether it's their personal relationship, business, improve their self-image, whatever it is, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. And you have to be willing to make a definite decision. Because even though when you make a decision from this call today that you heard from us, even though your results didn't change today, everything changed today. Because you're demanding of yourself of the type of life you want. And then you'll look back 6 months ago and you'll be able to look back, this was the best move I ever made when I was on that call and I made a decision. You know, so, and I could tell you that personally because that's what happened to me. You know, so I always encourage people, the only thing you have to do is invest in yourself. It doesn't even matter what the investment is. The only thing that matters is what the return is going to be. And I think people are afraid to go in the unknown, Mike. And the unknown is where the magic happens. Like, I tell people to hold me accountable to what I'm telling them is true until I lie. And I say, I don't even care if you believe me. Just don't not believe me. Stay neutral so you could see it for yourself.
That's such a good point. You know, Bob often, or not often, the last couple of events has quoted Kyle Cease. He came to our events a couple of years ago. And Kyle Cease would say, you can't measure what you're going to gain, but you can measure what you're giving up. And so you can measure the cost of the ticket and the cost of airfare and the cost of hotels. You know exactly what you're giving up, but you can't measure what you're going to gain. So you don't know the return on investment that you're going to get from coming to Paradigm Shift and experiencing the event, all of the networking and connections that you're going to make, the change in your mindset, the improved awareness. It's really incredible. And so when you think of it as more of an investment and not a cost, then it really doesn't seem so extravagant. And so really quickly, I do have more questions for each of you, but I'm getting questions in the chat on logistics. So really quick, I just want to cover some of the logistics of the event. The event is May 4th to the 6th in Los Angeles, California. And for the first time ever, I'm very excited to announce this, there's a bonus day at this event. And so the event is Thursday through Saturday, and then there's a bonus day on Sunday, which is a Winspiration Day. It's May 7th every year. It's going to be a really exciting, uplifting event. We're partnering with Wolfgang Sonnenberg on it, and it's going to be quite the joy. So with your ticket price, it's already included. You just get to stay through Sunday. It is at the Westin, LAX Westin in Los Angeles, California. We will go all day, Thursday and Friday, from 9 to 5, 9 to 6. We'll break for lunch each day. If you get a VIP ticket, you're going to get to have lunch with Bob on both of those days. He'll come in and do a Q&A with the VIP participants during lunch, which is really cool. And then on Saturday, we'll end a little bit early. We'll end about 1 o'clock, and we'll start back up on Sunday for Winspiration Day. So that's the schedule. Now, with your ticket, whether it's live stream or a physical ticket, you're going to get a 2-week replay of the entire event. And that means after the event's wrap, we are going to give you access to a membership site where you can go through all of the recordings. We'll have downloadable versions of all of the brochures, all of the quotes, all of the handouts from the event. So you can go back through it as many times as you want. If you think you learned something, had a big aha moment on Saturday morning, we'll have it broken up for you so you can just go straight to Saturday morning, look it over, go through it again, and really dive in deep to the event because it is so good. I think that covers it for the logistics. So I do have a couple more questions for you guys. Araj, you work really closely with all of our clients and you have heard incredible stories. And I know you shared a story earlier about that client from our last paradigm shift, but you have so many. I was hoping you could share another one.
Sure. I have a client who started with one of our 3-day events, similar to Paradigm Shift, and he wanted to get a little acclimated to Bob. And he said he had been with going to Tony Robbins events for years, and he had never had the type of emotional interaction with somebody like he did with Bob. And it was really the personal touch with Bob that really created a big understanding for him, because he said anytime I'd go to Bob, he'd spend time with me. And he said that was very unique and different than anything I've done in 20 years of going to different seminars. Well, now this gentleman has done everything that we've asked him to do, and he's coming back to our Matrix event, you know, for his 3rd time. And I think it's so amazing because he started from when I first talked to him as somebody that I said, just come to this 3-day event, just see for yourself what I'm telling you. And he was so resistant because he was one of those people who said, I've done events before, I already know what to expect. And I always tell people you have no idea what to expect until you hear Bob live. There is nobody who matches his energy and his wisdom like Bob. And that's why I think for anybody who is fortunate enough to be around him, I mean, he's 82 years old. He has the energy of somebody who's 32, and he just wants to help you. And one of the unique things that this gentleman told me, which I know for a fact, is every person Bob's in contact with, he treats them like they're the most important person in the world, and he always leaves them better off. So that's why I always keep coming back, and I know all you guys do, but for all our clients, it's just overwhelming where their life can come to once they make that decision.
Thanks, Raj. Peggy, since you've been to so many of our events and studied so closely with Bob, can you tell us what you're most looking forward to about this event?
My front row seat, of course. And, you know, just being in the presence of Bob. I was going to say God, but it's the same thing. Just being in his presence and this topic, you know, paradigm shift. I mean, paradigms are what's determining what your results are. And it's such a powerful subject. And so I know that it's so important and so powerful that it's impacting all of our results. It's impacting my results. So I'm on an absolute mission to stretch and grow and experience more, give more in the world. In order to do that, I must work on my paradigms. So what I'm excited about is rolling up my sleeves, you know, getting the pen out again and getting to work, right? And really being in that experience again. And of course, networking with all the people. Now, part of the reason why I sit at the front, Mikey, now is because I have ADD. So I have this thing where if there's something going on, I'm looking at. So that's why I'm sitting in the front, because I want to totally focus. But I'm so glad I'm there because there's a, you know, you could be sitting in the back and still get the information. But, you know, there's something that I thought of while we've been having this conversation here. I remember when I went to that very first Bob Proctor seminar and I signed up for a series of seminars that Bob was offering, and I did not have the money to do it. I didn't. And so I had this thing called a credit card, and that was available. So I went and I signed up on the credit card to go to that event. And when it was over, I didn't have credit available, but I went to, I think, my mother, father, brother, somebody else. And I said, you know, can I borrow that money? And they're like, what for? You know, you want to go to another seminar? The one that you just finished was like, yes. And, you know, it didn't take that long, but it took a little while before my results really started to change. But I'm so glad I did. You know, just like Arash is talking about that businessman from Australia who's increased his business 40%. And I've heard story and story and story, like Phil Goldfine I mentioned a minute ago. When he met with Bob, he had a stack of these gold cards and he just threw them on the table when they met in person. And Bob said, what are those? And he said, every one of these goal cards I achieved, every single one. And I was throwing mine away when I achieved it. It's kind of like when I heard that, it's like, dang, I wish I had held on to mine as well. And so whatever it takes for anyone to get to the paradigm shift, I look forward to meeting you there and shaking your hand and saying hello to you. But whatever it takes to get there, just make a decision, you're going, and you'll find the money. That's one of the great messages that I learned from Bob, is just decide you're going. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I reminded her of the event. She's like, oh yeah, I'm going. And I know she's in a relationship where it's not supportive and she doesn't have the money. And she's like, well, how am I gonna get the money? I said, just decide you're gonna go and you'll figure that out. And she's like, okay, I'm totally there. And I said, I'll see you there. So whatever it takes to get there, I suggest, highly suggest, that you get to this event. It's a phenomenal event.
Thanks, Peggy. I could not agree more. Now I'm getting a couple people in the chat saying they're having trouble submitting their order, and so I just went and looked at things. If you're clicking on a ticket and you're having trouble submitting it, it might be because for some reason the quantity is defaulting to 0. So at the top of the page, if you just change the quantity to 1, 2, however many tickets you're trying to purchase, your order should go through just fine.
Bring a friend.
Yeah,
make it
bring
2,
a friend.
3.
We don't have a whole lot of tickets left, so if you are planning on joining us in person, you're definitely going to want to reserve your spot today. I don't imagine us having any physical tickets come the end of the week. I'm pretty sure we'll probably be sold out by a week's close. So if you're planning on joining us in person in LA, the 4 of us very much look forward to meeting you, and you're going to want to go ahead and buy your ticket right now. If you're joining us on the live stream, our production has come a long ways, and our live stream is really great. I'll be joining you as your live stream host throughout the entire event, checking in with you, going through the exercises, making sure you're getting the most from the event, and it's going to be incredible. So either way, we'll see you come May 4th to the 6th, and we hope you'll join us. Araj, Peggy, Becca, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Our pleasure, Mikey.
Thank you, Mikey.